Well, good evening, everyone. How are you? Nice to see such a great turnout. We're anxious to be here, of course. You're anxious to hear from us about where we're headed with this enrollment process. But before we do all that, I'm going to call on Calvin White to say an opening prayer. Calvin, please. So it's been a busy while. January 31st was a long anticipated, and for me personally, a difficult day. These letters went out. I hear some of you may not even have these letters yet, and I'm concerned about that because we have 45 days to get an appeal in. I'll just share this with you. I spoke with Canada today on our way in the car, actually. I wrote a letter today to the Deputy Minister and to Fred Curran, who's working on this file, and I said we need at least 2 more weeks extension. So it's likely we're going to take this process out to March 31st from March 17th. And Adele and I were talking coming over. If we find out that people still need more time, we'll go back for more time. Because we have to give people who can get an opportunity to fairly get an appeal process in. They need to be able to do it. They may need information coming back from Canada regarding what's in their files. You may want your files back to see how you can make a case for those of you that are appealing. We had a meeting in Stephenville the other day. It was a rough meeting. People were very concerned, people emotional. And there's nothing wrong with that. And people need to tell their story. We need to capture these stories so I can go back to Canada and say, listen, here's what we're causing by all of this. And as I talk to people everywhere, and I get calls, people come to my office, you're going to tell us your story tonight, I'm sure, and we're here to answer your questions about all this. We're here also to talk about what are we going to do about it. We need to develop a strategy. You may have ideas that we haven't talked about, so we have to get working on where do we go next. We have 14 months before an ordering council comes in place, so we have to get ready to basically put up a fight and make sure Canada is fully aware of what the repercussions of all this are. I've had 3 meetings myself with the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs, Indigenous and Northern Affairs, Carolyn Bennett, and to date, I haven't got a lot of support. There was a process in place, and we have to see this process through. Where we go after that, we'll see. People will have to take this to court, obviously. I think that's what Canada, would like to see us do. At the end of the day, if someone decides for them that you have to take care of these people and put them back in the process, well, that's an easy out and everybody saves face in that process, as you can appreciate. So this is a tough situation. You're here tonight in large numbers because I know you have concerns, you're disappointed, you're uncomfortable, and your family members, whether they're here on this island, or they're in Fort McMurray, or Halifax, or Toronto, or Vancouver, they're being impacted also. So we have to work on trying to bring some sensibility back to this process. So we fix this problem by getting political, by people making noise, by people putting in appeal notices and all that kind of stuff, and everything we do. And somebody has to take this to court. I know the Mi'kmaq First Nation Assembly of Newfoundland, based in Cornerbrook, they're getting ready. They've been collecting their money, and some of you may be members of that organization. If you think there's an opportunity to help, I encourage you to join that organization. It costs $20. And they need money to be able to do this. So anybody comes to me that we can't help, and I got to be honest with all of you. For Council and Qalipu First Nation and the FNI, we're locked into this business, so it's very difficult for us to take ourselves to court. You understand? Because we're party to this agreement, whether we like it or not. And this agreement is legal and binding right now, and it's supported by Bill C-25, passed in Ottawa by the Conservatives, and to this day supported by the Liberal government. So I went to Ottawa last Christmas, just after I got elected, and I requested that Bill C-25 be repealed. I met with government, and they told me, we're looking at it as one of 5 bills that the Prime Minister may be considering. Well, it wasn't considered too much because Bill C-25 is still in place. So Bill C-25 is called the Qalipu Bill. It is still supporting the supplemental agreement. And maybe you'll have questions about all that as we go along. What I'd like to do at this point is give you a short backgrounder on what happened with the process, what is the appeals process, and so forth, and we'll have questions, I'm certain, in the end. History on the enrollment file. Focus being placed on the period between 2008 and 2017. This presentation is not meant to serve as an exhaustive account of everything that happened leading up and since the agreement in principle. So the agreement in principle was the very first agreement to form Qalipu First Nation back in 2008 and 2009. So in 2011 in September, on September 22nd, there was an order in council put in place in Parliament by the minister at the time to create or allow the creation of Qalipu First Nation. So that was really when the band was formed. That's when we all became part of that. The agreement in principle outlined the criteria that an applicant needed to satisfy to become a founding member of Qalipu First Nation. And the criteria were as follows, or are as follows at the time. A person has to be of Canadian Indian ancestry, a member of a Newfoundland pre-Confederation Mi'kmaq community, or a descendant of such a person, was not registered on the Indian register at the time, because you can't register for this band if you're already registered in another Indian band. Self-identified as a member of the Mi'kmaq group of Indians of Newfoundland on the date of the recognition order, which was September 22nd, 2011, and was accepted by the Mi'kmaq group of Indians of Newfoundland as a member of the Mi'kmaq group of Indians on the date of the recognition order. The criteria goes beyond ancestry, as you can appreciate. And this was a pretty difficult situation. I'll just explain to you some of the things that happened. People, you're probably getting letters about self-identification. Self-identification was in two pieces. Anybody who signed an application for Qalipu First Nation prior to September 22nd, 2011, or on that date, got self-identification just because they signed their name. But what happened for anybody, for example, your brother, sister, or cousin who signed that document on September 23rd, they went through a different process, a harder process. Meaning they had to show they were a member of a band, one possibility, Qalipu, KMA, Benoit Nation, Speltic Band in Central, or the FNI. All these affiliated bands. So that's one way you could self-identify. The second one was to have your name on a census, 2006 earlier saying, I identified as an Aboriginal person on a census. Another way you could self-identify was to have put an application in for a job somewhere, maybe a government job, and there's always a block on a government form that says, are you Aboriginal? So you put your name there. That's another way you could have self-identified. Another way to self-identify was to be actively involved in cultural events, but you had to show some proof that you did that. And sadly, by way of a story in a newspaper or something like that, who in the hell had their picture in the paper with a story in the newspaper about them personally in this process? Very few people did that. And finally, by proof of some other documentation from a local band or whatever that you were involved. So self-identification for a lot of people became very difficult. A lot of people got into this process on the very end. They didn't know they were Aboriginal. Unlike many of you people in this community. This has always been an Aboriginal community. You still have about 95 or 99% of your population Aboriginal. A lot of communities and a lot of people haven't done that. But these people came in on the end, and they basically prompted a requirement for Canada, and yes, the FNI at the time, to do something about this massive 103,000 people that came into this process. They got scared because of the size of it. The question was asked to the FNI, how many people are you in Newfoundland? And the answer was about 7,500, maybe 10,000. So when 103,000 people started to get involved, Canada got really nervous. Where did all these people come from? I'm after getting the legitimacy lecture, by the way, from Minister Carolyn Bennett twice now. Brendan, you have a responsibility to show the legitimacy of your band and the legitimacy of all your people. They're concerned that the people who were in the original 22,877 maybe got in easy on maybe, in their words, less than legitimate means or association with Mi'kmaq people. And of course, when 103,000 people came in, the question was raised, are all these people legitimate? And I'll share with you, I'm not having a lot of luck, by the way, in other places in Atlantic Canada particularly. I've been to the Atlantic Policy Congress only 2 weeks ago, met with all the Nova Scotia chiefs, the Gaspé chiefs, Newfoundland chief, Mazel Joel was there. The purpose of my meeting was to tell our story to these people because they're concerned about us. The Grand Council of Mi'kmaq people in Nova Scotia are concerned about us. They say, where did you come from, you people? I went there trying to make a presentation, to make a relationship with these people, truthfully to get acceptance with them. I see the power and unity of Newfoundland Mi'kmaq people being connected to this organization, and they're all affiliated with the Assembly of First Nations. I thought it was an opportunity to do something really good. I was well received by some, but the Nova Scotia chiefs were a bit nervous about us. The vote to have Qalipu First Nation having a seat on the Atlantic Policy Congress of Mi'kmaq people didn't go this time. It was blocked. And they say to me, let's talk again in April. We're affiliated with the Congress of Aboriginal People as Qalipu. I haven't had a lot of support from the Congress either. The Assembly First Nations have provided me some support because Regional Chief Morley Gugu, who some of you may know or have heard of, actually invited or offered to come to a meeting in Ottawa with me to meet with the Assistant Deputy Minister to talk about what we're going to talk about tonight. That's the first person nationally who helped us do that. And I've met Perry Bellegarde, had dinner with him a week and a half ago, You know, they're anxious to see how this is all going to play out for us. But right now we have to, you know, get to where we're going to be in this. So I'm giving you some background here because, you know, we're not getting a lot of support right now from Canada. We're not getting a lot of support from our neighbors in the Maritimes. And nationally, you know, organizations aren't that, you know, welcoming or supportive of yet. 2 phases of enrollment were created with the agreement in principle. That was the very first agreement, and the supplemental agreement came later. During the first phase, 27,000 people made an application, and 22,877, like us, most of us, got in this band. After November 30th, 2009, 74,000 applicants approximately were received, with the vast majority of them, 70,000 being submitted after the band was formed. So between band formation in 2009 up to September 22nd, we had a lot of interest, but 70,000 applications came in from the period of September 22nd, 11, when the band was formed, to November 30th in 2012. This was an overwhelming situation for everybody involved. I think it was overwhelming for the FNI at the time too, not only just Canada. So an independent enrollment committee was made, created, and enlarged to try to deal with the backlog of information that was coming in, or applicants. So on July 4, 2013, the supplemental agreement was put in place between Canada and the FNI. The volume of applications exceeded capacity of the enrollment process that was set up under the original agreement. And the supplemental agreement was used to extend the timelines to get everybody reviewed in this process. People say to me, "You were at the table when that happened." I fought this document hard. At the end of the day, though, 2 important things. There was no way for these 74,000 people to get reviewed if the supplemental agreement didn't go through. The second important thing is, if it didn't go through, Canada would take the process over, unilaterally decide how it was going to be done, and possibly jeopardize Qalipu First Nation, our programs, and our benefits. This is what we were told by our leadership and our lawyer, and being told by Canada. So we were in a pretty hard spot. So we did manage to get this thing extended. Just think this for a moment. People get mad at me sometimes because I was at the table that time, and they say I didn't fight hard enough. What do you think the view would have been, though, if we had said, we're going to protect our 23,000, we're going to protect our friends and our family, and to hell with the 74. We got what we got. How do you think people would have felt about that? And a lot of these people are our relatives and our friends and our family members too, who came into this process late. So it was a tough thing that we had to get involved in. So where are we today in terms of the enrollment and what happened in January and all the letters that you got? So our band right now, not counting the people who will be able to appeal, if we did nothing else, we're at 18,044 members, 13,365 applicants on the current founding members list will remain eligible. So at 23,877, this process saved 13,365 of our former members. We did manage to bring in 4,679. The next group we'll get in are those from the appeals process. If you have a right to appeal, you must put that appeal in. The FNI and Qalipu First Nation have our lawyers working right now on appealing for another bunch of people that we should have a chance to get in through this appeals process. Understand clearly, though, my position at Canada has always been, you gave our members a card for 6 years. Do not take that damn card back. You have no right to do that. When this process started and we had our first band formed, Canada had 30 days to take that card back from you. They took a card from one person only out of all those people. So here we are today now reneging on that piece of business, and we're saying now we're going to do something else. So we have 68,134 applicants who are not founding members, will not be eligible for founding membership. We had 3,984 invalid applications that came in. So we had a pretty big shift in where our membership is. I'll just tell you about that. Membership in Qalipu First Nation, with the current band, 45% of our people, our card holders, lived either outside of Aboriginal communities or on the mainland. The people, though, that put the applications in after this large group I talked about, 70,000, more than 70% of those people were on the mainland. So they were new people that came in from the mainland through family connections here at home. So that was a bit of a shift in the dynamic of where the applicants came from. So this process now anticipates that when our band is finalized, 95% of the people in this band will be in Newfoundland and Labrador, and 5% will be living elsewhere in Canada. So what do? We really attacked hard This process really attacked hard people living away from home. So here we are today, struggling to maintain what we have in terms of membership. And from 1949 up until 2011, we never had a whole lot. I know some of the FNI bands at the time got a little bit of money for education, some for housing. But we've been struggling now for about 50 years. People like Calvin White over there have been involved in what I call the modern Aboriginal movement in Newfoundland. John Oliver from this community. My father, Jack Mitchell. Wilson Sams. Tony John, Marilyn John, Jerry Wetzel, Larry Jador. All these people worked all those years. And yes, in the modern days, Brendan Shepard. He was around when we got this thing going. And this was a wonderful thing for all of us. You know, it's been great. Well, what happened in January? What did we go and do? We just destroyed a lot of the goodwill that we created over 50 years of working to get where we are. And for me, that's disappointing. And I told that to the lady Dana the Toronto Star, and I hope she publishes that. I tell it everywhere I go. This is not a joyous time. We've negated a lot of the goodwill and the warm feelings we created amongst ourselves, our families, and our communities. And it's saddened. I'm saddened that we just did this. So now from here, where do we go? We got to work together and stay together to try to make a case for people leaving us alone. And for people in Canada fairly letting into this band people who should be here. And I'll be straight with you. We're not going to get everybody in. The lady I met at the Greenwood Inn that told me she wasn't an Indian but put her name in because she's going to get some free stuff. I'm not interested in protecting her. I'm not interested in protecting the guy that didn't even know he was Aboriginal but put an application in case he gets something. I'm not interested in those people being able to get the taxes off the next Ford F-150. They don't belong here. But our families and our relatives and friends belong in this organization. And for those people who are on the far end of the scale in terms of what they want to get out of this, I don't know how many they are. But I've talked to a few and they told me the same story. You know, I want to get that education money for my daughter. I don't give a goddamn about being Indian. If I can get that money, that's all I want. Those are the people, a lot of them, that may have hurt us and they don't even know yet they've done that. The appeals process overview. If you're eligible to appeal, please get the appeal notice in. They're saying to us, though, you can't provide any new documents. Canada says the day is gone whereby you can send in a birth certificate now, but write in there why you think you should still be part of this band. You know, 20,000 or more people can appeal. A lot of people, because they never met self-identification, can appeal. Most of us didn't know the impact of that until just recently. A lot of people that thought they were going to be able to appeal can't do it. There will be a law firm hired of independent appeal masters who will review these files. And these decisions of the appeal masters will be final. So if the appeal master supports your case, you're in, fine, it's over. Also, if the appeal master says, I can't find the evidence in this file to support putting these people in the band, and again, not based on ancestry, based on the criteria associated with this file, then it's over. There's no more opportunity to appeal. Qalipu First Nation recognizes this is a difficult time for our members and all our applicants. We're doing everything we can, of course, to offer support. We're taking this all across the province. In every one of our ward communities, we're going to Northern Peninsula and we're going to St. John's. We have over 800 members in St. John's, and they really got the piss kicked out of them in this particular process. Northern Peninsula, we had about almost 900 members. I think the process saved about 152. You know, 600 of people who are involved in this thing are gone now. I mean, this is incredible. So what are we doing? We have people set up now to help with appeals. We have one in our office in Grand Falls, in Glenwood. Starting tomorrow, Corner Brook, Stephenville, and St. George's. So these people will be there to help out. I just want to make it clear, though, they're not allowed really to write your appeal for you, but they can help you and direct you and move you along in your appeal. This is where you need your family members who can help you support this situation. So please keep that in mind. So on that note, I'm going to stop right here, and we're going to talk about support services. And I asked Howard Thistle to come up and tell us about some of the mental health aspects that we're getting involved in. I'm going to take his chair. Thank you very much, everyone. We're going to get to questions in a moment. Thank you.
Left untreated, mental illness can be incredibly damaging to individuals and communities, and support needs to be both accessible and culturally appropriate. Health Canada will continue to work with Indigenous leaders to develop a long-term plan to address mental health issues being faced by Indigenous peoples, such as what we're going through now. Another support service that we have is through the NIHB program, which is non-insured health benefits program, is short-term crisis intervention mental health counseling benefit. This is a benefit that's accessible to everybody that has their card. The benefit provides assistance to clients and families for short-term crisis intervention mental health counseling. These services are not meant to support long-term counseling and should be seen as a bridge to other programs. So it's kind of like a bridge to get into another program that you can get through provincial programs like MCP or something of that nature. How do eligible clients access the benefits? By contacting an NIHB approved mental health provider. Copies of the NIHB list of approved mental health providers are available from the NIHB Atlantic Regional Office or by contacting myself. And I'm going to have my business card here as well for you to take home with you. And that's pretty much it for mental health, as well as the Hope for Wellness line. Feel free to contact me. My business card's there. I got handouts. If I don't get to you right away, it's because I've got loads of other calls, but certainly I'll get to you eventually. All right?
Thank you, Howard. And we have identified through Health Canada people in Deer Lake, Corner Brook, Central who are professionals, psychologists mostly, to help people with issues. So we'll be bringing in those resources as the demand is there. We'll do that, okay? All right.
Okay.
Thank you.